My name's Liv, and if you don't know me, I'm a co-director of Music for Wellbeing. So you're all joining us for Sing and Breathe Salisbury project evaluation launch. So moving through the presentation, a bit of context about Sing and Breathe Salisbury and why it's needed. So what we know is that respiratory conditions are the third leading cause of mortality in Wiltshire. And that totals 12% of all deaths. And over 30,000 people registered with a GP in Wiltshire have asthma. We also know that in Wiltshire, lung cancer is the second highest directly standardised rate of cancer deaths in the county. And yet we have no known community or peer groups specifically for people with lung conditions in the area. So stepping in, Singing for Lung Health and Sing and Breathe Salisbury. So a little bit about Singing for Lung Health. It's a group-based arts and health intervention aiming to improve quality of life for people with chronic respiratory conditions through self-management of breathlessness. So Singing for Lung Health, as a model, developed from an initial pilot research project in 2007 at the Royal Brompton Hospital in London. And then the British Lung Foundation in 2014 commissioned Feeney Cave to develop singing leader training in this work. And in 2017, that's when I did my singing leader training. And we set up the group in Salisbury. So initially it was a weekly singing group, and it's still carrying on now, which is brilliant. And for me, it's really important for the group to feel kind of ownership over that. And it's not just about myself and setting up the project. So eventually they renamed themselves the Salisbury Breathless Singers, and we also adopted a logo in memory of one of our founder members, and you can see it in the picture there. We trialled some short courses in 2018, so kind of 3 to 4 week courses, and then this led on to a year-long pilot of Sing and Breathe Salisbury. So Sing and Breathe Salisbury was very much a partnership project between Music for Wellbeing and the Friends of Salisbury Medical Practice. And I think the Friends representative is joining us today on the Zoom call. Hello there. And this was funded by the Postcode Community Trust and received in-kind support from the Salisbury City Council's Bemerton Heath Centre. So all the project activities were planned to take place in the community or in healthcare venues within Salisbury. And the pilot project aimed to firstly complement existing social prescribing projects, which were already being promoted by Salisbury Medical Practice, to help us develop the Sing and Breathe Salisbury approach to helping people with respiratory conditions improve their ability to self-manage their own breath, and then to also explore the potential of sustaining the project activities beyond the 1-year pilot funding. So our aims and proposed outcomes were as follows. The first broader aim was to support and educate people with lung conditions in Salisbury to better manage their breath through singing. Nice and simple. And the outcomes we were looking for individuals were, because of this project, people will learn how to manage their breath more effectively and efficiently. People will gain peer support and connection through attending and then reduce their social isolation. And then thirdly, they'll become more aware of other community-based health services that they can access. The outcomes for the healthcare sector were that local healthcare services will become more aware of the benefits of singing for lung health for breath management. And then finally, the outcomes we wanted to achieve for our project partners were that both Friends of Salisbury Medical Practice and Music for Wellbeing will have an increased understanding of the effectiveness of the model, which then can inform how we sustain the project or develop further projects from that. And then also that Music for Wellbeing will have an increased profile within local healthcare providers and the wider arts and health sector. Okay. So what did it look like? We developed the project to include 4 6-week introductory courses, and that took place over the course of a year from September 2019 to, well, just over a year to November 2020. There was a regular weekly singing group which took place for 45 weeks of the year, And then we started off with monthly outreach, information and education sessions. There was an external evaluation, but COVID obviously changed a few things for us. And then we, as I said, we initially face-to-face, but then had to transfer online due to COVID. Once we went online, the monthly outreach sessions were replaced by developing a set of video resources to accompany the 6-week courses. And we were also lucky enough to be joined by Rose Malin, who's a parish nurse, in the 3rd and 4th courses, and she could offer further information and support for us and for people with their specific conditions or situations. So this complemented the singing interventions and then linked the arts with the health, particularly overtly. If anyone has any thoughts or comments or questions as you go along, do feel free to put it in the chat box as well. We have Lucy who'll be keeping an eye on that, and then we will answer questions at the end. Okay, so that was the project structure. So thinking about the evaluation process, the project commissioned Nell Farrelly to coordinate the whole process and then to write our final project report. So we're very lucky to have Nell. She's a freelance evaluation consultant and researcher for the arts, culture and community sector, and she is here on the call as well, so big hello to her. And she has a specialism in community music and music education, participatory arts and socially engaged arts, so particularly things that Music for Wellbeing do. So we as an organisation also anticipated that the project would achieve longer term impacts, for example, enabling people to be more active, reducing their reliance on health services and so on. But actually, for the sake of the evaluation, it was agreed that any potential longer term impacts are actually beyond the scope of this time limited project. So we've really focused on the here and now and the actual time of the project. And it's also important to state what the evaluation is not seeking to address, and to also acknowledge its limitations. So firstly, although Nell has a background as a registered nurse, she's not currently a registered healthcare professional. And the evaluation considers Sing and Breathe Salisbury as an arts and health project and definitely not a clinical trial. So the evaluation isn't seeking to demonstrate measurable changes in clinical outcomes for participants, and the evaluation methods themselves are based on participant perceptions and their self-reporting. So when we collected the data, it intentionally didn't ask any information about clinical indicators like reduced medication or peak flow increasing. But if this was offered by participants, then it's been considered as part of the qualitative data in that evaluation process. So the kinds of collection methods that we used were registration forms to collect why people were motivated to attend, the kind of end of course evaluation form and verbal questions, that was all face-to-face, and then over the phone for when COVID hit us. We also asked about discontinuing participants and why they didn't keep on with coming to the courses. And we also asked lots of people from the Breathless Singers as well who have been attending the intervention for 2 to 3 years. And Nell also made observation notes as well, which are all included in the evaluation report. So a really wide variety of different evaluation methods there to consider what we were hoping to achieve. So the findings. We have some numbers. It's not an evaluation without numbers, is it? So over the 4 6-week courses, we had 32 participants, 5 male and 27 female. Our original target was 10 to 15 per course, so we didn't quite make those numbers, so we had an average of 8 per course. But actually we've learned through that process that this is a really good number. So between 6 and 10 works as a kind of critical mass. It's an optimum number to be able to give individual attention, but also have enough people to sing together and make quite a nice sound. So interesting, although participation is weighted heavily towards females in this intervention, case rates in the wider population actually shows more balance between the sexes. So that's quite something that's quite interesting to think about going forwards as well. And basically, how do we recruit more men onto this programme? We had 16 Breathless Singers participants, and although we increased the number of participants over the year, it wasn't as substantial an increase as I'd anticipated, but I think COVID would have played a huge factor in this. And then with our outreach session participants, we had 212. Our original target was 120, so we absolutely smashed through that, luckily. And I was really lucky to be invited to lead some singing at a couple of bigger events, which also acted as a kind of recruitment tool for the courses themselves. So from the numbers, we go to our findings. And yeah, this is just one example of a quote, and it's full of these amazing kind of quotes from participants. So in essence, participants that have done the courses say things like, I think it's been the most helpful thing that I've ever actually had suggested, done, or been supported with, because it's helped me with my breathing. It's also made me very conscious of not putting myself in situations that will make my COPD worse. So for a humble musician like myself to be involved in something that has had such an impact on someone's life, and that they're saying it's been one of the most, or the most helpful thing that they've ever done to help with their breathing, is incredibly humbling. And you can read all the quotes in both the full, in the full evaluation report, but they are incredibly positive. So the main themes that were coming from the questionnaires and interviews were, as on the slide, the motivations for people to take part had been addressed through the course, and they were things like improving their breathing, and specifically improving their breathing so they could go on and do some more singing, also improving their mood, and then having fun. Who'd have thought it? Healthcare can be fun. And actually the role of singing in a Singing for Lung Health course was really important for some people. Some people had heard that singing is positive for their health and for mental well-being, and actually that was the hook for some people to take part, the fun and the joyfulness of it. Also, with other people who hadn't sung before, their experiences of singing during the course actually led them to be surprised that they really enjoyed singing and loved it, or it reignited or rekindled an enjoyment of singing, and it supported their existing enjoyment of it, and they enjoyed singing with others as well. And lots of people mention that they can't go to these choirs because they just end up coughing, whereas somewhere like Singing for Health and the Salisbury Breathless Singers, everyone's at it, so they're all in the same boat. Another theme was around particular techniques that we taught on the course that was found to be really useful for people. An awareness of a different way to breathe, so belly breathing, deeper breathing, being able to control their inhalation and exhalation, and then relaxation techniques and awareness of posture and bringing awareness to the body that they hadn't really thought of before. The self-reported benefits that were coming up, so people were reporting their increase in peak flow, their reduction in use of their reliever inhaler. They were less breathless when they were walking up the hill and able to talk in full sentences without having to stop and take a breath in the middle. And then also they reported a general benefit of just keeping their lungs fitter. I don't quite know what that means, but that seemed to come up a little bit. Social aspects were really important too. So some people reported benefits such as having fun, enjoyment, and connecting with others. But that's something that they could get from kind of any singing group. Specifically in a health and well-being context, other things they got were understanding and empathy and solidarity with peers, a camaraderie, and then knowledge sharing about the specific condition that they are living with. Not everyone wanted or needed social support and had it elsewhere, and we found that the face-to-face sessions offered better opportunities for this social support if it was sought compared to the online ones. So quality of life. The breathing and relaxation techniques helped them to cope with their daily life, improve their mood, and people who were maybe scared of their situations or their symptoms found it reassuring that they now have ways to cope with them. And then for those who previously enjoyed singing, it's helped them to sing more. We've also noticed that Sing and Breathe Salisbury project complemented other services and reinforced advice that had already been given to them through other clinical outlets as well. And for some people, actually this knowledge of different breathing techniques has been a revelation, and life-changing has been quoted as well. So slightly embarrassing bit for me, and actually the leadership and the teaching style, people were very kind about my approach to this, and they liked how I led the sessions. It was no pressure, it was fun. Apparently I was good at explaining things, and then my enthusiasm for the work as well. But I do believe that the role of facilitator is huge and critical to the success of arts and health interventions, and how participants relate to those interventions as well. And it's the relationships that is central to that motivation to attend. And then finally, lots of appreciation and satisfaction with the content, the variety of the course and the delivery were expressed by the participants too. And they all just wanted it to be more widely known about so more people can benefit. So that's something we can all get on board with. So, intended outcomes for individuals. We strongly met the first two, about people managing their breath more effectively and gaining peer support and connection, and partially met about raising awareness of other community-based health services. But I will just say that we did try to signpost and give further information, but in the main, Sing and Breathe Salisbury was the community-based health service that people would refer into. So that was quite interesting and quite nice as well in a way. But the breathing techniques and the social support was the most important for the participants. So in terms of health services, we partially met this outcome about other health professionals being more aware of the benefits of singing for lung health. There are good awareness with the local lead respiratory nurse, and we've connected with the parish nurse, Rose. I was also invited to speak to different health professionals. So yes, there is an awareness, but we didn't actually, time and budget constraints had an impact on this, and then, with the background of COVID as well. So we're kind of partially meeting that. It's a work in progress still. And then for our partners, Music for Wellbeing and the Friends of Salisbury Medical Practice, we both do have a greater understanding of the model, the changes that we need to do to improve these things in future. And luckily, Music for Wellbeing has secured the funding to sustain the work until Easter currently. And I'm in discussions with a wider range of project partners to try and take it forward post Easter, so fingers crossed. And again, the local healthcare providers and an increased profile, as I said, I was asked to speak to different healthcare teams. It's hard to know the longer term impact. And we are just about to now launch the evaluation report and do a social media campaign around that. So I'll let you know about the wider arts and health sector. Okay. Oh, I don't know why I'm going backwards at this point. So in conclusion, the points of reflection before we have time for a few questions. So COVID has had a huge impact on the project design and the ability of health services and professionals to engage with a non-statutory arts and health intervention. Signposting to other services wasn't that strong, but was really limited by the amount that's actually available for people with lung health conditions in Salisbury. So that's something to think about in the future. The most valuable aspects for participants were learning breathing techniques and the social support that came with that. The structure of the pilot project was really successful and met different needs for different people at different times. The optimum numbers for the course were 6 to 8 really, or 6 to 10, and not 10 to 15 as we had intended initially. And we are seeking to be included in future local social prescribing frameworks and networks. So overall, we generally met, we were effective at meeting our aims and outcomes, and particularly the breath management and social support targets. So that was a whistle-stop tour of the project and the evaluation report, and just to say you can download both the full and the summary reports from our website there, musicforwellbeingblog.wordpress.com. You can email me, livmclennan@yahoo.com, and you can refer friends, family, patients, the man off the street to the next Singing for Lung Health course, which starts on the 28th of January. So just get them to email me at sing.breathe.wiltshire@gmail.com.